Jessica from A New Moon and April from Sacred Roots. We are going to touch briefly on the astrology, and then we're going to shift into reading on the energy that's going to present itself this week. Our videos are intended to be timeless, so if you find this video on YouTube or you stumble across it one way or the other, if it is resonating for you, it is absolutely that energy is flowing to you, and this reading is for you. So again, the intention on these readings is timeless, even if we talk a little bit about what the current astrology is in this current moment.
Well, because not everybody is going to deal with it at the same moment. Like, you may not do this work this week. You may do it in 3 weeks or 3 years.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So if it's resonating with you, then absolutely it applies to you. This week, I did a short video earlier this morning on my Facebook page, and what I get from the overall energy of what we're working through this week is Saturn and Pluto. There's a lot of energy, and Mercury is going direct, and Mars is going into Scorpio. So it's like this aspect where the masculine and the masculine energy has been in this teeter-totter mode, but like April and I were talking yesterday about Libra energy, it's like they're in this constant state of balancing things, and it's a cardinal sign, so when it makes a decision, it like kind of blasts off. So you might find in different areas of your life that you've been feeling this kind of back and forth in your mind perspective, and that you might have the inclination to kind of surge forward into one direction or the other. And the way that the astrology is kind of encouraging you is to pick the side. If you're in a place where you feel like you need to pick a side that you feel holds your values, holds your the way that your soul aligns with, the way that your morals align with, the way that the way that you want to go, not feeling pressured or bullied to make a decision, that you're to stand up for yourself and, embrace that personal power, but also doing, again, I've been seeing for a while, doing the work through using like the yellow calcite, so the solar plexus work that we've been doing, and that is power, which is Pluto is in a shadow aspect, an abuse of power. And that's what is going to kind of show itself to you over this Mercury transit that starts to go forward on Wednesday. So I'm going to briefly go over the main 3 days to kind of watch the energy is Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Those days are all kind of linked together with the Mercury retrograde going forward. Know that whenever a planet is going backwards and it stops for a second, it takes about 3 days for it to be able to kind of move forward into the next direction. So those days are going to be like Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. This weekend is a lot of relationship dynamics where you're going to notice, like I told you, you're either going to go left or you're going to go right. So there is like a line drawn in the sand in certain aspects, and you're going to choose. And that's that Mars and so Scorpio's been going through this shadow period, kind of what I was explaining to April earlier today. It's like you have this bag and you've been collecting data through all these different experiences for the past 2 weeks. Now that Mercury goes forward and Mars moves into Scorpio, there's going to be action like on what was revealed. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So just know that stuff is going to start burping up, and notice where you're going to want to kind of lunge forward and pick a side. Like Scorpio is even top to bottom, so there's that duality, just like the Libra is this way, going like balancing itself out, but Scorpio is the either we're going to take the upper realm or we're going to take the lower realm. And that was one of the things that I got the most out of this week, is when you go forward and stuff kind of comes up that might come up out of nowhere, Scorpio, go forward with it with that's why we had picked the rose quartz before, is it's like going forward and then going like sliding up into your more divine aspects of your personality versus coming down and dealing with stuff from more of a shadow perspective. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Okay, so that's about, it's gonna come through the reading, but that's what I would focus on this week as far as the astrology, is just how you go forward with information that comes towards you. And, trying to keep yourself well nourished, like sleeping enough hours this week, getting stuff done that's on your to-do list, not procrastinating. That's the encouragement that I would give you for mindfulness to deal with the astrology. Go ahead.
Start with the reading?
Mhm.
Okay. So I'll start with the overall, taking us into the reading, and I just get take time to breathe out. And it specifically says breathe out, and it's a disseminating moon. So we are coming out of a full moon, and we're still releasing. We talked about last week about Taurus being a very physical aspect. So I just get that this is continuing off that full moon of continuing to just release things, to let things go. And underneath that, upside down, I get have faith in your dreams. And that, so that's basically as you let these things go from the full moon, that is what's going to make space and allow for the things of your dream to come in. And if we're not letting go, then you can see that this card is upside down, so it's stagnating. So you have to make room to let the dreams come into that slot. That's kind of what we talked about earlier, about some things that I ended up doing, cleaning house, throwing things out.
Those are great full
getting
moon
rid of
things to
things, just naturally, physically drawing things out to make room for things to come in. So that's the overall I get.
Okay. And then to match with her, we pulled from the same deck but just different decks. I pulled the card that she pulled last week, and it's a time to give rather than receive. So if there is, again, sorry, this idea of being able to forgive, like I did a reading earlier, I think this weekend, where I talked about the ability to give, and even if it's not a physical thing, maybe it's just forgiveness. So that's what I get as an overall, is it's a time to maybe humble yourself in some aspects. Look at, maybe it's just even the idea of looking at things from somebody else's perspective. So just finding, and the other thing that's been coming to me recently is, what can I do? We might feel in some areas of our life where there's a lack right now, and it's, what can I do? Like, what can I give? I might not be able to give, charity. It's time where we give away to charity, and it's like, well, this person is giving, $1,000, or giving this or giving that, but I don't really have that much, so I'm not going to give it all. No, or different people that come into your life, where if you're an empath, you always want to do everything for people. It's like, okay, well, I need to conserve my energy, but this is the energy that I have. I have 10 minutes for you, Mom, on the phone. Like, I don't have an hour and a half like what you want. I do, so you avoid the phone call completely. It's like, well, when your mom calls, or grandma or whatever, it's like letting them know, hey, I have 10 minutes to give you, and then, instead of the hour and a half that they want from you.
Healthy boundaries is what I
Healthy
got from
boundaries.
that. Okay, so I'm going to start in the middle realm. As you know, I read the upper, middle, and lower realms. So I'm starting with the middle. That's the here and now, the situations we might be dealing with in our lives. The one I get, so 2 out of 3 of these cards I drew last week, so we're still kind of dealing with some similar things. We still are in this Mercury retrograde in Scorpio. So right in the center, I get the King of Cups. He is upside down. So again, the water element representing our emotion, our intuition. And then with that, the clarifier I get is to focus, and that's also upside down. So there may be a possibility that we're not able, or we're not focusing on the emotional contentment that we really want, and they're really encouraging us to, focus on what is it that fills your cup, what is it that you want to draw in your life, and then drawing on that focus. And it's funny because I just put rosemary essential oil on before we did this reading, which is all about allowing us to focus. So that's me working on that ability. The second one I get, that we also drew last week and we talked a lot about, was the Two of Pentacles. You can see he's kind of balancing these two clocks, or these pentacle clocks, I guess, and then he's got these two cups that are ships sailing away. And we talked a lot about this being a very indecisive, anxious energy of, oh my gosh, I need to make a decision. The ships are sailing, the time is coming, and they're just this like, and I think that's one reason they're giving us focus, is because when we get into this anxious energy, we're not really able to focus on what we want. We're coming from a place of, I have to make this decision, of anxiety, and you're literally moving out of your cognitive brain, the frontal lobe, and moving into that dog brain in the back of our brain, which is the most primitive part. When we get in these anxious modes, we're cut off from that ability to focus. So that, it's time to breathe out, focusing on that breath to bring it back into cognitive brain. The clarifier I get is inner peace. So when we're thinking about the decisions we're making or this anxious energy, we need to step away. We need to find our inner peace before we can make any decision. And then I also get, making the decision that gives you the most peace. So it may not be the most Aquarian idealistic, like it may not be what your mom thinks you should do or your friend thinks you should do, but moving toward like, what do I feel inner contentment with? Because that will be the right decision for you. The third card that I get is the Six of Swords, and in this card you can see that Alice in this Alice deck is in a boat with somebody else. I don't know what that is. Somebody else, and it's sort of a dreary scene where there's it's dark, there's water, there's moon, so water being our emotion, the moonlight being intuition and emotion, how we're being drawn and guided through this. This really screams the Mercury retrograde to me. What do you think about that? Mm-hmm. And so there is this sort of journey. Again, this is upside down, so it could be things we're still working through or resisting in some sense. This emotional journey within our inner self, our emotions and our intuition that we're still going through in this Mercury retrograde. And we may be like afraid to go down this path because it's scary, but it is leading us to our potential.
Can I touch on that card?
Yeah.
The visualization that I had as she was talking about this is the Mercury retrograde for sure, because of the water and it being very turbulent. But also what brings me to this is the saturation of Mars energy right now being in Libra, and those cards touching on that. It's like we've been going backwards in our thought processes. Like I talked about the bag, you have two bags. That's Libra, right? Where it's like and Mars being an action sign, it's like I want to get rid of, you're sifting through stuff, deciding what you're going to keep, what you're going to let go of, what feels out of balance, what's not allowing you to feel inner peace. And then that's just the Mercury and the retrograde and Mars.
Yeah, so there's, I got 3 clarifiers for this one, which is a potential for 1, and then diligence is upside down, so we might be getting tired of this Mercury retrograde. All this stuff is, bombarding us, and we're like, oh my gosh, when does this end? But it's not much longer, so stay diligent, stay in it, and then at the bottom, underneath all that, is power. So this, if we stay connected to this journey and keep doing the work, in the end, it is going to bring us to this potential and power. Okay, and then the advice I get for this entire situation is I get the Ant card 32, which is, the 32 is significant to us, but Ant essentially represents collaboration. So I don't get it's just collaboration with people and community. I get that it's collaboration within your own self. That it's like, these decisions you're making, these emotional fulfillments, this journey you're on, are you honoring all aspects of yourself, your divine masculine, your divine feminine, within Gemini energy, like both sides of the coin, your inner self, your outer self, your subconscious, your super conscious and your conscious. Are you honoring all of that? Is there a collaboration between subconscious, conscious, and superconscious? Superconscious being the connection to the collective, so going into the community. So there's so many ways you can look at this Ant card and this collaboration within the self and then within the community. And then within those shadow energies, are you refusing to deal?
All 3 of those cards are very stormy.
Yes, I agree. There's water in all 3 of them.
Turbulent.
Yeah, there is water in all 3 of them. So we are dealing with still a lot of emotional stuff. We are still in a very scorpionic season of, you know, how we're working through things. So there's a collaboration, and I'm also getting that it's like, you know, collaboration even with not just your own shadow self, but with other people's shadow selves. It doesn't mean, like you said about the boundaries, it doesn't mean that you know, enable that conversation that you don't want to have, but it also doesn't mean that you completely block it. You figure out how to collaborate with that where it respects your boundaries and their needs. And then the medicine I get for this one is the crab apple, which is, this goes back to our purification kit, because it's for self-love, to create purity, cleansing, and objectivity. It is to aid with self-loathing. So a lot of these could look like, especially this
Your
one.
victim mentality.
Yeah, the victim mentality, that self-loathing. Obsessive and compulsive. So that could be, yeah, that could be those decisions or that idolism. And then feeling contaminated or unclean or impure. So that is what I get for the middle realm overall. Again, really just pointing us to collaboration within ourselves and others, and then being able to work through this self-love and this cleansing process that we're going through emotionally with all this water, all three of these cards showing water.
Yeah, I like how you touched on it. It's like, even with the ant, brings to me, before you said it, is like the co-creation with the universe, like being able to manifest what it is that you want. The ant is very small and they want to build something so large, but to realize, just like in the army or any kind of service, everybody has a job, no matter whether you're a queen bee, queen ant, or a worker ant. Like, everybody has a part of the whole.
Yes, and the 32 you said was the divine complement, which would make sense with being in collaboration.
With the right teammates and soulmates.
Yep.
Yes, okay. So I'm going to come down, and actually I'm going to I'm going to read for the feminine, then the masculine, and then come down with spirit as our guidance at the end. So what I'm going to start with is for your divine feminine. Now remember, we all have divine feminine and divine masculine in our energy field. It's the yin and the yang. And so this is for either people who resonate very strongly with I am a feminine expression, or the inner part of you that is feminine, because we again have both. So for the divine feminine, I have as an overall is trust in the great mystery. And what I've been channeling specifically for more of the feminine energy recently is there is that, the stuff that April talked about, is there's this anxiousness, this anxiety, this feeling that something's not going to show up. It's like you've seen the glimmer of hope and it seems like you are grasping for it, or it's just out of reach of what you're trying to pull in. So it's like the divine feminine energy right now is really, it's like when they show me like in the olden days, or it's like the woman would send her husband off to war and like have to trust that she doesn't know what's going on with him, but then believe that, you know, it's going to come back, or he's going to come back. I don't know why that showed itself to me, but it's like the ability to be separated from something and know that everything is what it's supposed to be. So underneath it as clarification, I get, again, the 9 of Cups and the 4 of Swords. The 9 of Cups is this, I got this when I pulled this morning, actually. And the 4 of Swords, so it's like the 4 of Swords is relaxing underneath a tree. It's like his swords are put down, he's in this really relaxed space. So what this says is or what it says to me, especially knowing what the astrology is going on, is we are closing so many karmic cycles right now. 9, the number 9 in numerology is the ending before the beginning, before 10, which is a master number 1, really. So this 9, you're at this space of knowing that even if something is sad or maybe it's joyous, it's like there still is this sense of a completion in an emotional space, whether you're ending a relationship, ending a job, getting rid of a photo album that you've had from when you were in high school, and sifting through different pictures and throwing some away and keeping some. No matter where this parallels, feminine energy is your emotional space. So the feminine is going through a completion and is needing, as something closes, you don't know what there's so much left unknown. So it's like surrender. So I get the Four of Swords goes with it, is surrender to the mystery. Try and avoid control dynamics, like the Pluto and the Saturn. When we get fearful, we look to try and like push our control stuff that helps us feel safe, right? Like we want to create our safe environment, so we might try and get everybody else to do what makes us feel safe, because we're going into unknown emotional territories because old cycles are completing. But what this overall relationship card is, it says this situation involves marriage. So the feminine is real. We're going to be asked over the next couple of months to again choose or align to the left or right. So it's like whichever side you're going, you're making a commitment to this energy. So very discerningly look at what you've done in the past. Number 9, everything that you've gone through in the past, that you've completed, the knowledge that you have, and then surrender and take each situation one case at a time, because you're making commitments. You're creating new cycles going forward. And then what I get off from that is what she is really kind of concerned that she can't really see, but she intuitively knows is coming in, is I get the exchange of gifts, and the exchange of gifts is upside down. So it's again, she's worried that these things, like from the Taurus new moon that maybe she was manifesting, these physical things are not going to come in. There hasn't been no exchange of communication, Mercury retrograde, exchange of communication from her masculine energy, because again, he's been in Libra, going back and forth, or maybe your inner masculine and feminine aren't really working well together just yet. So I get the reason why that this emotional exchange or this energetic exchange is upside down is because we're going through a process of transforming. So what was coming to me this morning, that kind of, we're closing out all these cycles. We don't really know. We just, with any kind of change, there's chaos, right? And confusion. So, and then that can lead to fear and mistrust. So it's like surrender and know that you're going through a transformative period is what I get for the feminine.
Okay, so now I'm gonna go into the lower realm. Jasmine, come on. So yeah, she's security clinging, right? So this brings us in. Thank you for the example, Jasmine. So I'll go into the lower realm, which is like the hidden realm, the subconscious. I like to use the word subconscious because lower realm can, I don't know, it has can kind of scare people, I guess. But so the idea is that in the subconscious, the things that are sort of hidden from our conscious view, which could be things that we inherited, family, karmic cycles. It could be a trauma we experienced when we were a child, that we've brought in these patterns with us, and this Mercury retrograde is especially starting to reveal some of these things. So I got 3 main cards, and the one in the center is the horse, or the Knight of Pentacles. And in this particular deck, with the horse, that is sort of representing a power and intuition. The Knight of Pentacles in the original tarot is definitely a place of being in abundance and having the abundance to say, I'll host Thanksgiving dinner and I will provide all the food for you.
Time to give instead of take.
Yeah, so there is a sort of, this, so maybe that's something subconsciously that we do want, is we want to be able to give with abundance. And then the clarifier I get with that is it's upside down, is not to fear the unknown. So there may be like, we fear that we won't have the ability to give this abundance, to our family, to our partner. Maybe then our partner won't love us. Maybe then our family won't appreciate us if we're fearing that we can't provide this abundance. And then the next one I get is balance, and there is 2 snakes in this intertwining around a tree, and I get very Libra energy from that. And then in the original tarot, this is temperance. So this is all about being patient, allowing things allowing those scales to kind of balance things out naturally.
Well, can I touch on that a little bit? Is what that screams to me is what Anne was saying this morning about in the collective there could be this surge of people where it's shown where the power dynamics have been off scales where where it's like this person always hosts holiday dinner, and it's like the ability to give like, okay, I'm going to humble myself and allow somebody else to kind of express that. Or at work, you have the team leader who's always kind of pointing, or the mean girl at school who's always corralling everybody this way. It's like that energy, you might be dealing with that, where the abuse of power, or maybe you realize and humble yourself, like, oh my gosh, I've been doing that. I didn't mean to, so subconscious, like I didn't mean to do that. I'm gonna give and allow you to take lead on this.
Or enabling that behavior in some way.
Yes. Okay.
So there's some balancing within that, and then I get the clarifiers is surrender to the flow, embrace the dark, and know your fears. So this definitely within the subconscious is allowing these things to, bubble to the surface and release, and know that, like, don't just shame all your shadow aspects, like, oh, I don't have control issues. Like, be honest with yourself. There are times where we all have control issues, and if you're reacting to somebody else, then there's probably something in your own subconscious that it is activating and denying that and projecting like, oh, it's you, you're the
because we have a lie.
Yeah,
even if the bully at school, if you watch countless movies over all the time, the bully is typically getting bullied.
Yes, there's the bully is bullying because of something in their own self that doesn't feel good enough. So then they have to exert this, like, I am good enough and this is why, which ends up causing, more problems. So just notice when you're reacting to something, within this control or within that, why are you reacting? Allow that dark part of your own self to bubble up and release. And it's not like apples to apples, it's not always like someone that you interact with may be like, whatever it is to the 10th degree within, that shadow realm, whereas you may just be at, that first degree. So, it's not like if you're being shown that you're that bad, but to some lesser degree within yourself that needs to be released.
Well, your 10% rule, right? Or
yes.
Whenever there's confrontation, April's been using the analogy a lot recently of nobody is ever 100% at fault. And so even if you can give this, humble yourself 10% and own up to 10% of a situation, it allows somebody else to kind of relax and release.
Well, yeah, it gives them permission. Like, it's okay to be wrong. Like, when I'm like, you know what, Jess, I'm responsible for this, I apologize. Then it makes her feel safe to then apologize for her percentage of whatever the conflict we're in. So it's like leading by example, basically.
Or that can even go towards, like, if you want a job, and it's like, if you can't get to that point just yet, maybe just giving 10%. It's like, I can't commit 100%, but this is what I can commit. I mean, I can come 10% of the way forward.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, and then so the third one, or there's two cards with this, one hiding under the other, and again, this is upside down, so either we're working through it or it is stagnant. Then this is the 10 of Wands, and it's about responsibility. In the original, it's tarot deck, it's about like burdens, and you can see, he's holding all these wands, which seems burdensome, or whatever the responsibility is that we're holding. Which, if this is in our subconscious, this may not be an actual thing that we need to be responsible for. So it could be something, since it was in the reverse position, that maybe we're needing to release some of that.
Carrying other people's burdens.
Yes, carrying baggage from childhood things, emotional baggage that's really not ours.
Or your spouse's family issues.
Oh, yes, and then so underneath that, sort of hiding from that is the 5 of Bows, which is about empowerment. So I think it goes right back to what we were talking about here. When I'm able to sift through and say, what am I responsible for and what am I not responsible for? Because it's not I'm 100% responsible and she's 0% responsible. It may not even be 50-50, it could be 60-40, it could be 10-90, but
we're all
sifting
human.
through and figuring out what is it that I need to release and what is it that, that is not on me. The clarifiers I get with this is to seek your destiny and see yourself in nature. And the seek your destiny, there's the fox again, with the sun, and this is just a very like acknowledging what the ideal is and focusing on, where you're going instead of focusing on, oh, I have to carry these burdens to get there. Just being focused on what is it that you're wanting to connect with. So within these burdens, it's like, well, I want a relationship that's fair, that's 50-50. So then what do you have to release within the burdens and responsibility to get you closer to 50-50? And then the other one, the see yourself in nature, this one is about being human and having these human patterns and acknowledging, that we aren't perfect. So being able to be honest with ourselves and if you are, 10% responsible or 50% responsible or 90% responsible, don't shame yourself because you're human. And this is part of the human cycle, is that we learn by our mistakes. You only get better by finding out what doesn't work. So there's just, both of these are just screaming at me accept that you're human and that you make mistakes, and even if you are 90% responsible, don't beat yourself up. That is part of the cycle of, becoming this full human being. You have your whole life to become, to reach the ideal. You don't have to be perfect now. You have 50 more years, 30 more years, 60 more years to figure it out. You're not expected to figure it all out now.
Well, and a lot of the stuff that Ann talked about astrologically this morning is these specific cycles that we are stepping into, creating new cycles. So knowing, taking what she said, this bird's eye view of looking at the bigger picture of I have this 10 years to work on this. I have, Saturn, I have 30 years to work through this next Saturn transit. It's knowing that there's a bigger picture, and I don't, like she said, I don't have to be perfect now.
I just get that there's a lot of whatever we were taught by society or our parents, not to shame our parents, it's just what they inherited, what we all inherited, is, there's these ideals that it's this is the way you have to be, just releasing yourself from those burdens of having to be this way or having to be that way, or having to put that mask on at the holidays.
Or having to change a tradition, that it's not the end of the world.
Yes, allowing that flexibility. Okay, so then the animal card I get for the advice and how to deal with this situation within our subconscious, how to release these things, is another one that showed up last week, is the turtle. So this connection with the earth, with Mother Earth specifically. So that, again, the turtle's ability to have this protection where it can be on land, where it's grounded and stable, but it can also go in the water, the emotional waters. It can work within both these realms, so the ability to have emotion, share it, but then go and be grounded in the earth, and
to be able to make the change. I mean, it's one thing to have, to get into this emotion, to express this emotion, but it's another thing to be able to take that and then put it in a physical, with action, because that's what the Mars is going to do going this week, is coming forward, and it's going to expect this physical change.
Okay. Yeah, and so with the turtle, with that shell it carries around, it always has protection. And again, I talked about this last week, but the ability, if it needs to, it goes in its shell. But it can't stay there, because then it needs to come out again and be able to feed and be able to do all the things. So there's an ability to use that protection when it serves you, and then to come out when it doesn't. To go in the water when it serves you, and then come out and be on the land when it doesn't. And within all these things we're releasing within the subconscious, there's again this connection to the earth, to Mother Earth. Specifically, the turtle talks about Mother Earth. And for people with extreme anxiety or panic attacks, one of the things that we teach is to actually push your feet into the ground, to remember that you are always supported by the earth below you. So that is important to, when you're getting stressed, you're in dog brain, actually focus on putting your feet in the ground. And then the other thing we teach is to name the 5 senses. So put your feet in the ground, and then name something that you can feel. You know, I can feel the table. Name something you can smell. I can smell this rosemary, you know, that I put on. And go through the 5 senses, and that brings you into the here and now, you know, tactily into the here and now. And then the 2 medicine cards I get Willow again.
Willow's been big time. Scorpio,
Yes.
bitterness, resentment.
So the Willow is about releasing resentment, bitterness, blame, self-pity, and hurt, feelings of injustice. And it's to help create forgiveness, taking responsibility for one's own actions, and drawing in that happiness to replace the bitterness. And then the second one I get is Vine, and this is to work on tyrannical, willful, ruthless, and hard-hearted. So this goes into that victim state of, you know, well, I was wrong, so I have a right, like whatever happened, we feel, you know, like we have a right to be angry or to lash out. And so this is to help create compassion and respect and be a positive leader.
Okay. So I'm going to come over here and talk from a masculine perspective, and I think this is a big deal for the masculine right now because it's getting ready to shift signs. Next week I'll kind of elaborate on Venus a little bit more, the feminine. But from a masculine perspective, we're going from Libra. We talked again about this kind of teeter-totter, balance, justice, fairness. It is a Venusian sign, so it's softer. Mars is moving into its home sign of Scorpio. Scorpio has a shadow side and a divine side. So again, this kind of divine complement where wherever there is darkness, there is light. Wherever there is light, there is darkness. And to know, even off of her reading, to know that we all have distorted versions of ourselves. We all have light versions of ourselves. Just which side do you spend more time in? The masculine energy as a whole is going to be coming out of this confusion space where they're going to make a choice. You're going to make a choice even as a feminine because you have masculine energy. But the male, the male energy itself is going to shoot forward and go left or right. They're like Sagittarius has been aiming that arrow at left or right. And then when Mars moves into Scorpio, it's like release. That's the cardinal energy, that boost forward. And then when it lands, that's the Scorpio where it's going to be fixed in this earth realm. So I get the ram. So that's very, again, this cardinal energy, that the masculine, which also Mars
which is
rules.
charges
Aries,
forth with the
head
with the
first.
head, and rams in reality are nearly blind, yet go through the world head first. So that is like this very faithful, like I can hardly see, but I'm just trusting.
So two very Mars ruled masculine energy things kind of going on here, Scorpio and Aries. So it says here, you have many gifts, no problem to withstand the power of your mind. With patience, you can reach the mountaintop. So that also screams Capricorn to me. Never give up, and good luck will follow. So it's like the masculine energy is going to have this impulsivity that might come over them where they're going to want to shoot forward. I think it's necessary, but I think also being able to kind of like consciously choose which way you're aiming the arrow of where you align, and then letting it go and burst forward.
So is discernment sort of advised in that?
Yes,
Okay.
I would say that, absolutely. Anytime that you're dealing with Aries or like a Mars ruled sign, because the fixed nature of it, what they're bringing back towards me is, again, you're committing to whatever area that you're shooting off into. I'm choosing this job instead of that job. I'm choosing this partner instead of that partner. I'm choosing lavender versus chamomile. I don't know. There's this commitment energy that's coming in. And so coming off of that, so knowing that you could feel very impulsive going forward this week, I get over here to touch on that is oh no, I'm reading those later. I got the Four of Pentacles. So at the top of it all, Spirit is saying it's a time to give. But the Four of Pentacles, it's like, I'm withholding, right? Like,
Yeah. You're like, it's like hoarding.
hoarding.
So I'm afraid to give it because I might not have enough.
Yes. Or you, I guess what came to me when you said that also is I don't know what's on the other side. So Mercury communication, I'm withholding information because if I put that information out there, I don't know what is going to be on the other side.
Okay.
So either financial, physical, like where are you withholding? Or maybe look at it this idea of maybe you're needing to save. We've both been creating these savings jars around our house of like this, I have this extra, this is going in my vacation fund. I have this extra, this is going in my business fund. I have extra, this is going here. So it's like maybe you might be seeing where you need to start saving some money, but also where are you withholding? Because we've talked where it's like the universe is always abundant.
I was gonna say saving or sacrificing the money.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yep, I like that perspective. And what comes down there, and I got this last week for the masculine energy as well, is the Knight of Cups. So that's where I feel like it's this it's Mercury, like it's this masculine energy coming forward with that emotion that they might.
The King of Cups.
Okay. Yep. So it's like, where are you? And then I got the 9. So you might not know how to go forward with this emotional, or you may feel newness within this emotional sharing. So try and not withhold the emotion, withhold the communication. It's like you may be a novice, but bring that forward. And then I got the magical shapeshifter, which is like all about going into things blindfolded, not knowing what's going to happen, but trusting. Because again, I got the commitment card, so it's like there's these ending cycles, and wherever you shoot that arrow, wherever Scorpio lands, there is an essence of committing to this. And then off of that, I got enjoy the bliss and holiday time together. So it's like the honeymoon phase of anything is always fun, and it's like enjoy that. So you might come through like, okay, the way that they're showing it to me is like two people coming into a relationship and they just started dating. If there's the honeymoon phase, oh, yeah. There's the honeymoon phase, and it's like, well, we really want to be in that space where we know each other and it's not awkward anymore. But you have to allow for that time to pass, but also enjoy the newness of each step that you're taking, being at each level.
I'm just getting that this could be like because of your subconscious like baggage you're bringing with it. You could like be seeing it like this when really it's, you know, this opportunity for a honeymoon or something beautiful presenting itself, but because of the things you haven't released within your subconscious, you're making assumptions on what it might be.
This might not come, like, well, with the feminine also, it's like, this might not come, this is...
Yes, the fear of it. So I'll show the viewers what we're looking at. So this card that I pulled that was sort of like a scary energy looks a lot like this one that's promising this honeymoon. And this could be the way we feel about it because of our baggage, when really it looks like this, where it's this beautiful opportunity.
Yep.
So again, releasing the baggage.
Well, that takes you back down to what experience are you creating for yourself in your own mind? Our mind can be a prison in itself.
Oh, absolutely.
So how are you imprisoning yourself through your perspective just because like the feminine energy doesn't understand where's the gift, where's the exchange, where's the communication, where's the whatever, and the masculine is kind of staying back because I don't know how she's going to perceive. It's like both of them. She's not seeing the fruits of the exchange of the gift, and he's kind of staying back because he's afraid of what might be on the other side and will it be received, and he's afraid to commit, and she's struggling through, well, this has to
we're still
transform.
working through the shadow of that Mercury retrograde, and we're kind of like, I don't know yet. Okay. I like it.
And go ahead, and then I'll read on this.
Okay, and so now we're gonna go into the upper realm. So this is like the bird's eye view. This is where I think Spirit is really giving us their view on it. about everything going on here. And so I'll start in I'll start with on the left side. I've got the Seven of Cups. So there's all these different options going on, which could seem abundant, or it could be, this is the way Spirit's saying, oh, I'm providing you all these, beautiful gifts. God's like, I'm offering you all these things. And we could, back to this middle realm, we could be interacting with this anxiety because of it. Whereas, God or Spirit is reminding us, like, this is abundance, this is options. Like we talked about with that. And then the clarifier I get with it is speak your truth, and that's upside down. And what I get with that is that it's like being authentic with yourself, and what, again, back to here, with these choices, what feels best to you. Not going with what is, ideally best or logically best, or what, my parents would say or what society would say, but what option feels most authentic. What just, if you just feel into it, what feels comfortable, what makes my stomach turn with these different options. But I'm just really getting that they're like, this is abundance. Don't be stressed out by it.
Right. You prayed for all these things.
Like now you have options. And that this card is